My new layout has several different kinds of rock formation, and there are several different ways to put rock formations on your layout. In the lower right you'll see stacked hydrocal forms. In the middle, on the switchback road running up the side of the mountain, you will see another hydrocal form that was pieced on, and up on the top you will actually see not hydrocal forms but sculpted plaster that you can do yourself. You don't have to be an artist to do this kind of work. You just have to know what tools to use and how to go about it. And that's what this video clinic will show you. Right now I'm concerned with this area. I have several options available to me, and I have decided against doing this concrete all the way across to match this concrete over here that holds up the bridge. I've decided to do a rock face coming up, and let me show you what I'm going to use. Woodland Scenics makes these rock molds. Here I have one with a lot of shallow, which is what I'm going to do the most of, and here are some deeper ones with similar striations that I'm going to use on the road section of the rock face. And as you can see, you pour hydrocal into them, and this is what you get. They're very nice, and they take the paint very well, and I have made some in the past. Hydrocal is very good for making these. As you see, I've got thin ones, and I'll use those toward the top. Thick ones will be towards the bottom. So this is what I'll be using, and all I'm going to do is stick them to the rock face using the joint compound. When the joint compound squeezes out between the different pieces, you just smooth that down, and when it dries it all looks like one piece. So let me show you how we do that. So the first step is just to apply this anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. It's doesn't have to be smooth. It doesn't have to be even. But when this dries, it will adhere to that perpendicular surface, and it will hold on to anything you've squished into it. Looks like my medium has dried out just a little. And this will be ground cover right here, and we'll have kudzu growing up around there. Okay. And once we have that up, we start placing our pieces. Now, as I said at the bottom, I can use something thick. But as we go up, it needs to become thinner. Let's see what I have here. Now this one's a little long, I'm just going to break it, okay? Just break it. See if I've got a little one to put in over there. This out over that. There we go. Don't worry about that spot right there. We don't have to put anything in there. that can be filler. But you see the idea. As we continue to just go up the wall and place these, and you can break them. Don't worry about breaking the back. If that needs to be filled with a little joint compound later, like this one, we'll put a little joint compound in there, and then it will look just fine. See where it squishes out there? You just do that, and now the pieces run right together. And this little piece right here, and it looks like we are done. Let's see, we need something over there, and it should be fairly flat. Okay, so I'm going to fill in wherever I have a break like that. I'm going to fill in some here, and just use my little trowel. This is another palette knife. We'll put some in here like this. Need a little more. Some up in here. And the joint compound, although it is harder, will take the paint the same way the Hydrocal rock face pieces are. Okay, and here I'll rub this off here and rub that there. And let's see. Instead of putting a piece here, I'll just kind of shape it like a rock. Okay. And that's done until it's time to paint it. I'm ready to begin my rock face. I've poured these molds. So Woodland Scenics mold, and I believe the name is Rock Face. This is the mold that I used. I used Hydrocal to pour this, and I will be using sections of this. Anyway, you can look around and find what you want. You can see the strata that I have in here, and the strata can be just about any way. You see them always, but I have elected to keep my strata basically horizontal. So that means that I have to fit this in. Now, as you can see, this is not a right angle here, and this sort of isn't. So I want to make this fit up against there, but I also want to make it fit down here. Well, I just eyeball it, because I'm going to fill in my mistakes with the okay, I'm going to cut that, and after I get that and make sure that that's right, then I'm going to cut this one at that angle, so it'll be up here like that. Okay, now the tools I'm going to use, it's a X-Acto Mix-A Saw, and this is very good for it. I may also use this one. This one isn't as fine a tooth, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut these pieces. Okay, here's my piece, and as you can see, I have my horizontal strata. I need to cut a piece that goes in here and here. Once I get those pieces cut, we'll go ahead and stick this up with joint compound. I have my joint compound, and it's pink, but it dries white. I'm going to put it on thick. At least 1/8 of an inch. But if you get more than if you start approaching, as you start approaching 1/4 of an inch, you run into the problem of its own weight pulling it down. take this all the way down to the road. And remember, we have the road is 3/8 of an inch away. If you start piecing your rock face and you find that it's sticking out beyond that, either adjust that piece so that it doesn't stick out beyond it, or you can make the adjustment later on just before you put the road down. But this is just a matter of applying the joint compound, and once you have it all there, you're ready to place your pieces. Press it into it. Get that piece up there flat. And let's see, this one goes down in here. That might have some work to do there. And these pieces go well, that used to fit in there. Take the end off this. Okay, now it fits in. Okay. All right. And you notice I just broke it there? Doesn't make any difference. Okay. And that's all there is to it. I'm going to continue this piece over here and this piece up here. All right, I have this wall finished. Show you just one more thing. If you have a spot that's a little low, just go ahead and put some of this on it. You can actually make it stick out a little bit, because you can come back later and blend it in with the rocks, because it will be white too. Make a little piece up there, and this will be finished. Now notice that I'm not as concerned about down here, because I got 3/16 inch of a road to cover any gaps down here. All right. Right, I have my rock face up and filled in the back in this little gap I had between this and the asphalt. And I decided to do this face right over here too. I used a total of 3 of this type of rock face, so I have a lot more left. But I'm going to let that dry for at least 48 hours. I want the pink part to be completely white, and I want to be able to mold it. Okay, and where you see cracks, we can either fill those in, or we can run kudzu up there. There's all kinds of things that you can do to hide mistakes, or you can just go ahead and fix them by putting some of the joint compound in using a smaller trowel. It's been 24 hours since I put this up. You can still see some pink in here, so it's not ready to paint, but I just had an idea. I talked about camouflaging areas where pieces were joined together, or there's a crack because I broke the piece here, and I decided to do something different. And I'm going to show you what that is. I've mixed some Hydrocal according to the instructions, and you want it real thin. And I'm going to brush over those areas. It's using a paintbrush like this. And use the bristles to push it into those cracks. Work quickly and only mix small amounts because it sets up quickly. But see, you can thin it out. If you get it too thick in an area, you can thin it out using the brush. I have some water here to help keep the brush thin. But anywhere where I see a spot where there's no rock face, I just dip my brush into the Hydrocal solution and paint it on. You can put it in real thick in some areas. Keep your brush as clean as you can. But this looks like it's working really well. And so I will go about treating all of the areas like this, covering up all those joints, filling in all the holes where the pieces didn't fit seamlessly. And I'll get back to you in about another 24 hours. As you can see, it came out rather well. I'm still seeing one line here, but that's because of the way, I don't know, I guess it joined, but that looks like a good place for some kudzu. But all in all, I'm very, very happy with it. And I'm glad I tried this. I hope it works for you too. Once your rock face is clean and dry, you're ready to paint. The method that I'm going to use is Woodland Scenic's leopard spot method. You can watch a Woodland Scenic's professional do this job on YouTube, or you can watch me. I'm doing it exactly as they did. I've chosen my three colors here. Stone gray will be the overall color. I'm doing granite. Raw umber and yellow ochre will be my underlying colors. The underlying colors are mixed with water at approximately 7 or 8 to 1. Water to paint. Same with the raw umber here. The stone gray, the over color, is more like 15 to 1 water to paint. I know that sounds silly, but it works. So let's begin. The two underlying colors, I always start with the dark and then put the light over it. The colors are going to run together, but that's a good thing. Let it drip, let it run. Okay. Then when you're finished with that, go to your light one. Try to get it in spots where you didn't get the other one. You want lots of paint. You want it to run together. Also, do not try to do too big an area at once. I think I can get all this in. And down here. And maybe that. Okay, now I'm with my gray color, and that goes on everything. Because the Hydrocal is white, you need nice long bristles to make sure it gets into and on everything, because believe me, you will see the spots you miss. But you can always go back with the overcolor and get those little spots. But you see how because we've watered down the major color, the highlight colors that we have underneath show through. And that gives us, instead of one value of gray rock, we get many, many values of gray rock. And because it's just splashed on, it's haphazard, as is nature. And it looks like we finished that. Let that take a minute and a half. And there you go. Now, does that look like rock or not? So I will finish this one, and when it's dry, we can put in our road. Alright, I have painted the rock face, both the stat Hydrocal here and this rock face that is facing the switchback road, which has been blasted out for the road, so it's going to look a little different. And next we're going to make some rock and sculpt it ourselves. Alright, tools I'm going to use. I have a mixing bowl. You notice it's very small. That's because you have to work in small patches or the plaster will set up. I've got a measuring cup, 1/2 cup for plaster, 1/4 cup for the water. Let's mix 2 to 1. I have this palette knife for mixing and applying the plaster. This is just a regular hobby knife of the straight across edge for shaping and carving. And I also have this pick. This is very sharp, and this is for wider gouges. This particular pick is sold with Woodland Scenic's sculpting kit. And also I have a brush to brush away the chips as I work. So I'll go ahead . And I will mix it. Now you're going to want to apply it sort of pasty-like, but you have to keep it just a little bit thin or it will set up too fast on you. Of course, if it does set up all the way before you get to it, you can still carve it. It's just a little harder. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed and that you don't have any dry spots. See if you can see here. Alright. See the consistency I have? It's starting to set up already. Let me put just a little more water in it. By the way, this plaster also gets warm as it sets up. That's a natural thing. Not hot to the touch, but very warm to the touch. So, okay, this is the consistency I want. And when it gets like this, make sure it's thoroughly mixed, that there aren't any dry spots in there. I found a dry spot on the bottom because it impeded the movement of my palette knife. Okay. get a towel. I'm going to be making rock up through here like this. No rock here, then farther back around the other side I will have rock going around. But take your palette knife and just spoon it up. You're not really making rocks now. What you're making are globs that you can carve into a rock. As far as to how you put it on, gee, I don't know. I just put it up there. Try to make some divisions. As you can see, it's setting up already. So go ahead and get this stuff out there. I think I'll bring that out a little further, like that. And when we get to do our next part, we can just go right on top of what I've already done. So I'll get it all on there. Because remember, the plaster underneath is very thin and it covers paper right here. So the only part we can carve is the plaster I'm putting on right now. Okay, as you can see, it's already setting. So I will set this aside and begin shaping. Now, why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, when a master sculptor was once asked how he sculpted such a beautiful horse, he said, well, you take your stone and then you chip away everything that doesn't look like a horse. And that's basically what I'm doing here. Everything that I see right now looks like globs of plaster. It doesn't look like rocks, so I'm just going in and shaping each glob the way it is in a manner that somewhat resembles a rock. And you can see at this particular stage the plaster sculpts very easily. I sort of wanted you to see everything on this to show you how quick and easy it is. I wanted that up there. Not sure why it was so soft. But you see how I flatten off the top like that. And then I flatten off the sides. So all I'm getting right now while it's soft is the base that I'm going to work from when I really have to start carving. You can see, most of my motions are this way. I'll get my up and down motions later, when I have my rock a little more clearly defined. And then I can cut out pieces. Here, even that one. Some up and down motion in here too. I had to replace the battery, but you didn't miss much on what I've done. I've moved my camera so you can get a little bit better idea. All of this was done when the plaster was fairly soft, and now that it's setting up, we can put our finer details in because it'll hold what we set. As you can see, again, I'm making motions across and then up and down. Right here I'm following at the angle because that's where the plaster went. Now look in here, I'll just push this in like this and then stop. Push in and stop. Push in and stop. See, that gives me those little ridges there. You can also put them in up here. Just like that. Okay? And as far as fine tuning goes, as much or as little as you want. This is your layout, and whatever satisfies you is just right. Okay? I like to spend a little extra time on detail myself. That's why I paint all my track. I try and paint the rails and paint all the ties, because it just makes a nicer looking layout. And then even though it took me 2 days to do that, it's 2 days well spent in my book. So again, what you do here is entirely up to you. And again, what I'm doing, this kind of runs around. That looks more like plaster than a rock, so I'll just go ahead and cut some lines in it like that, and maybe take this out right here, make that a definition between those two parts of the rock. But as for the general form, that's established by the way you put the plaster on. The thicker the plaster is when you put it on, the more form you can get. But I personally prefer to put it on a little looser and let it fall where it may, because where I decide, if I decide where every little bulge in the rock is going to be, that looks like a plan, and it'll look like a plan when you're painting it. I don't want it to look like it. I want it to look like it was planned. I want it to look haphazard. I believe I said that before. That's what nature is, and so that's what I want my layout, the nature part of my layout to look like. I want it to look haphazard. You can hear how the knife now is making sounds as I cut the rock. Here I'm going to do the thing again where I cut down like that, but just over to a point and then stop. Where you have a raised point there and a lower point next to it. And if you we're at a point now in hardness over here that if you wanted to go in and start and do another part, you could do that and finish the fine tuning later. But as you can watch it form into rocks before your very eyes, and if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not an artist. I'm a retired truck driver. Okay, and every once in a while, get your brush, brush the chips away so you can see what you have. Want some more over here. It's a little too roundish for rocks. Looks more like globs of plaster than a rock over here, so we'll fix that. Cut up in there, and it looks like we're doing it. Okay. This is pretty good, and I'll decide later before I paint it. Well, I might as well do this while I'm here. Again, I found another spot that looked more like laid on plaster than it did rock. So, I've done that. And as we come around here, this is not in the world anyway, so we're not going to worry about it. All right. And there we go. So, we'll continue this, and I'm going to, the next batch will be right down here like this. And then we'll go over here, and in just a second I will reset my camera and give you a better look at what I've done. Okay, here's a little bit closer look at what I've done. And I think that's going to look real good. I don't think there's much more I'm going to end up doing to that. We'll just see what happens when I get this next part on. I will continue putting on rock in exactly the same way until I finish this side. Alright, now I've got the next piece on, and it's ready for fine tuning. Alright, I have finished the rock face on this section of the mountain, and it is ready to paint. Okay, I've added the paint. I've also painted the undercoat for the ground cover because I'm tired of looking at all that white. And that's all it takes to make some realistic looking rock face. There are others who can do a much better job than I do, but if I can do this, so can you. I hope you've learned something and that this is helpful for you.